Welcome back to the State of the ARK, my quarterly series about adding context to Cathie Wood's biggest buys in each ARK Invest fund over the previous quarter. Since this channel focuses a lot on their research, the goal is to see how ARK Invest is putting their money where their mouth is, as well as to highlight what could be some of the best stocks in each area of disruptive innovation to buy right now. Since there's just too much to cover in a single episode, I've split the State of the ARK into a few episodes, which I'm releasing around the end of the quarter. I'm calling the whole series ARK Week. So, welcome to the second week of ARK Week. Part 1 covered the biggest changes to ARK Invest's combined positions. Part 2 highlighted some of the biggest buys inside ARKW and ARKF, ARK Invest's funds themed around next-generation internet applications and fintech innovations respectively, as well as highlighting a pretty interesting inconsistency between them. This is Part 3, which covers ARKQ, Cathie Wood's fund themed around the autonomous revolution, and ARKX, the 6-month-old space exploration fund. You can watch these episodes in any order, and timestamps are always enabled for your convenience. In the previous episode, I mentioned a trend that I'm finding very interesting. At the end of the quarter, ARKF had 38 stocks in it, a whopping 18 of which can also be found in ARKW. That's 47% of ARKF's positions that can be found in ARKW as well. If you compare that by weight instead of just by stocks, the overlap is about 35%, which is still nothing to sneeze at. For example, if Square stock, ticker symbol SQ, is 10% of ARKF and 4% of ARKW, that's a 4% overlap between the funds because both funds are at least 4% Square stock. We don't want the funds to overlap too much because, well, then there's a less meaningful difference between them, what stocks and risks they expose you to as an investor, and how their prices move over time, right? Well, ARKQ and ARKX have an even bigger amount of overlap. ARKQ had 38 stocks in it at the end of the quarter, and ARKX had just 35, 18 of which are the same stocks. If you go by weight, these funds overlap by a massive 47% still, because of a few big positions that sit inside both funds, like Trimble, Kratos Defense and Security, UiPath, Unity Software, Iridium, Lockheed Martin, and several others. So I'll show you the trades in each fund individually, highlight the ones they have in common, and then I'll wrap up with my own commentary, which I always try to keep separate from the overviews of the data so you can make your own unbiased data-driven decisions. One final note before diving into the data, I was on vacation for the last 5 days. It was actually the first vacation that I've taken since becoming a full-time investor and YouTuber, so some of the numbers I'm showing may be slightly different from the previous ARK Week episodes because I've updated them to include the last 2 trading days of the quarter. As always, you can find a link to download the full State of the ARK presentation for free at tickersymbolu.com using the URL on your screen right now, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below as well. Great. Now that all of quarter 3's trading days are accounted for, here's how the assets under management of each fund has changed. On July 1st, 2021, ARK Invest's funds totaled just over $49 billion combined. On October 1st, just before market open, Cathie Wood's combined funds had under $38 billion in them, marking a whopping 23% decrease in total assets under management. This should give you a good sense of how rocky and volatile these funds are, as well as how fickle some investors who claim to be long-term investors can be. That's not a dig on anyone, I'm saying that because for every person who sells low, there's someone buying low on the other side, right? So when you pick and choose which companies to invest in, you need to be ready for the volatility that comes with that choice, unless you want to be on the wrong side of those trades. Don't worry, we've all been there. The point is to do better next time. Anyway, here are the updated numbers for each fund at the end of the quarter. ARKK's assets under management dropped by almost 24% and are now back to under $20 billion in AUM. ARKG dropped by a whopping 27%, from almost $10 billion at the start of the quarter down to $7 billion by the end. ARKW and ARKF each dropped by about 20%, and as for ARKQ and ARKX, which are the focus of this episode, their assets under management dropped by about 20 and 14% respectively. The reason I always cover assets under management first is because that's the baseline for looking at the changes in ARK Invest's positions inside each fund. Here's how I use that number. Here's the table of Cathie Wood's positions inside ARKQ. Each row is one stock, the rows are ordered by the size of that stock's position inside ARKQ, and the rows are colored by that change in position over the quarter relative to the change in ARKQ's assets under management. Since the total amount of money inside ARKQ shrank by about 20% since the start of the quarter, positions that are in white shrank by around 20%, right in line with the fund. Green rows show positions that shrank by less than 20%, meaning they grew relative to the fund, and red rows shrank by more than 20%, meaning they shrank relative to the fund. Since Cathie Wood can't control the prices of the stocks she buys yet, the first column shows the percent change in her share count, and the second column shows the percent change in share price, which are the two things that affect the total position size of each stock in the fund. The numbers on the right show you each stock's rank in the fund and how that rank has changed over the quarter, as well as its rank when you combine all 6 of ARK Invest's ETFs. Lower ranks are always better. Using this framework for analyzing ARK Invest data, all we have to do is look for the darkest green rows. Pretty simple, right? So for example, Cathie Wood increased UiPath, ticker symbol PATH, inside ARKQ by over 75%. As a result, it's now the 4th biggest position in the fund, increasing 6 ranks from where it was at the start of the quarter. The amount of UiPath shares held in ARKQ actually more than doubled, while its price dropped by almost 25%. Now that I've gone through how to read the data, let me highlight the other biggest changes. Unity Software, ticker symbol U, Komatsu, KMTUY, AeroVironment, AVAV, and Blade Air Mobility, BLDE, all saw substantial increases in position size over the quarter. If we look towards the bottom half of the fund by weight, we can also add Markforged, MKFG, Archer Aviation, ACHR, and Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR, to the list, because they got added after the start of the quarter, making them huge position increases. Just for clarity, Cathie Wood added $26 million worth of Palantir to ARKQ this past quarter, while only adding $10 million worth of Protolabs, ticker symbol PRLB, which is the position immediately above Palantir. The reason Palantir's row isn't in darker green is because there was no data to compare it to at the start of the quarter. Interestingly, every company I just mentioned, except Unity Software, is trading at a lower price today than they were trading 90 days ago. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not an endorsement to buy or sell any security or fund. The fact that Cathie Wood is loading up on these companies and they're cheaper now than they were 90 days ago tells me that I should throw them on my watch list and do some extra research sooner than later, not that I should make any impulsive buying decisions. Here's the table of Cathie Wood's current positions inside ARKX. ARKX only dropped by about 14% for the quarter instead of 20% like ARKQ, but otherwise I'm looking at the changes the exact same way. Remember that overlap thing I was talking about? Well, let me just highlight the biggest changes for you inside ARKX. We have Unity Software, ticker symbol U, AeroVironment, AVAV, UiPath, PATH, Blade Air Mobility, BLDE, Markforged, MKFG, Archer Aviation, ACHR, and Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR. No, you didn't just accidentally hit the rewind button. Those were the biggest purchases in both funds over the quarter. Now, I'm being a little cheeky here because Joby Aviation, ticker symbol JOBY, got added to ARKX and not ARKQ, but hopefully you're seeing my point about these funds overlapping by more and more. So let's talk about these positions. Whether you've been following the channel for a while or you're just joining for the second week of ARK Week, you'll be familiar with Unity Software, UiPath, and Palantir. Unity Software sits inside every ARK Invest fund except ARKG and ARKF. On the other hand, UiPath and Palantir are the only 2 stocks to be in literally all 6 of ARK Invest's funds. Because of that, I heavily featured them in the first episode of ARK Week, and I've put out dedicated deep dive videos on each of them. I've put together one convenient playlist of all my stock market deep dives for you. I'll leave that in the top right-hand corner of your screen right now, and in the description below as well. So let me highlight the 4 other stocks that Cathie Wood has loaded up on in both ARKQ and ARKX over the quarter. AeroVironment, ticker symbol AVAV, is a drone manufacturer that focuses on building small and medium unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS, as well as technical missile systems such as GPS-guided artillery shells. Their non-missile systems do things like relay communications, surveil a given area, track things on the ground, map out a region, and more. In my opinion, the biggest risk to AeroVironment is the fierce competition in the drone space, especially in the defense industry, where there are many massive companies providing drone solutions of all kinds. Right now, AeroVironment is focused primarily on government contracts, but they're also putting out media about entering the agriculture market, which is certainly a beneficiary of drone technologies. Because AeroVironment focuses on smaller form factors though, their drones could be suited to a lot of other industries, even beyond agriculture. I'm excited to see what they come out with over the next few years, as we see the adoption of drone technologies continue to, take off. Get it? Take off? Like Blade Air Mobility, ticker symbol BLDE, is currently a helicopter seat booking company that carries passengers in crowded urban areas via helicopters, jets, and seaplanes. The big idea is skipping dense city traffic to get where you need to go in a fraction of the time for a competitive price. Their future is all about progressing into the urban air mobility space via electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, or eVTOLs. The reason for that is because a major limiting factor for the growth of urban air mobility is the amount of noise that helicopters generate along their flight paths, and eVTOLs are much quieter. Just like Uber has on the ground, Blade is developing the infrastructure and routes and the brand recognition with customers while keeping their own company asset light. And just like Uber pays drivers for their time and vehicle costs, Blade has to pay aircraft operators the same way. Blade is a former SPAC that has shown consistent growth but is currently still trading at around its $10 SPAC price after landing back on Earth from a sky-high $18 per share earlier this year, which was something like a $1.25 billion market cap. Markforged, ticker symbol MKFG, is a 3D printer manufacturer and the creator of the Digital Forge, an integrated metal and carbon fiber 3D printing platform. The Digital Forge uses machine learning algorithms to learn from each print from any of their printers to fine-tune each new print over time. Their platforms are used by Google, Tesla, Amazon, and the US Air Force, and even NASA. Markforged greatly reduces the friction associated with learning to 3D print parts from scratch by using AI to streamline every step of the process. They recently announced a piece of software called the ARK Fleet, which gives organizations a secure and centralized control point for all of their Markforged 3D printers, users, and libraries of parts. The ARK Fleet is designed to help manufacturers integrate additive manufacturing technologies into their existing workflows. I think that's a really smart move because a lot of legacy companies still see 3D printing as a huge investment to replace something that isn't really broken. But Markforged can start by securely augmenting existing capabilities and scaling as customer adoption continues to increase over time. Archer Aviation, ticker symbol ACHR, is designing and developing electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, or eVTOLs, for use in urban air mobility. So, it's a flying taxi maker making a flying taxi called the Maker. The Maker is a two-person, 12-rotor aircraft with a range of 60 miles, a top speed of 150 miles per hour, and a cruising altitude of about 2,000 feet. Like I pointed out with Blade Air Mobility, noise is a very important factor. The Maker will only generate about 45 decibels of noise, which is about 100 times quieter than the average helicopter. They're also working on a 5-seater aircraft for group flights. Importantly, Archer just completed a reverse merger with the SPAC Atlas Crest Investment Corp, ticker symbol ACIC, in mid-September, and is now trading at well below the $10 SPAC price after Archer Aviation and Atlas Crest both agreed to cut the deal value by about 37%, from $2.7 billion to $1.7. This isn't really a big deal in the long term, since urban air mobility and vertical takeoff and landing vehicle companies are probably at least 5 years away from generating real revenues. They're currently still sitting at under a $2 billion market cap today, so basically right at the value of their reverse merger, making it a good company to research further right now while the price is still at ground level. Comment below or tweet me at ticker symbol U with your thoughts on these different aerospace and supporting technology stocks. Are you interested in autonomous mobility in general, or urban air mobility specifically? Do you want exposure to drones in your portfolio? Or do companies like Markforged appeal to you more because they can support a wider variety of industries and market sectors? Should I try to buy a consumer-grade drone from a publicly traded company and test it out for the channel? I'm excited to hear your thoughts. As for me, after the previous episode of ARK Week, I was a little worried that I'd be questioning why more and more stocks were included in different ARK Invest funds. I'm happy to say that I think these stocks make a lot of sense inside ARKQ because of the focus on robotics and autonomous mobility, and they definitely make sense in ARKX because of the clear ties to suborbital aerospace. I believe that drone and 3D printing technologies are definitely core technology platforms to these funds, and I would love to see them lean even harder into that theme. If we added Unity Software, UiPath, and Palantir back into the mix, we actually cover almost the entire value chain here, including the making of interactive visualizations, automating a lot of the day-to-day processes, and analyzing all of the data associated with the whole enterprise of moving people and stuff through the sky. The two reminders I'll throw out there are that urban air mobility companies are still several years away from being serious revenue generators, and both ARKQ and ARKX are pretty niche funds, so make sure you're not overweighting your holdings in these types of companies just because they make super cool physical products. I've been guilty of that myself as well. And all of these stocks are trading at a lower price today than they were trading at the start of the quarter. Well, except for Unity Software, but we all know that ticker symbol U is only going to get more and more valuable as time goes on. Speaking of ticker symbol U becoming more and more valuable, don't forget that the full State of the ARK presentation is available for download for free at tickersymbolu.com using the URL on your screen right now, and you can also find it in the description below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is ticker symbol U. My name is Alex, reminding you that the best investment you can make is in you.